These Latina moms aren't fluent in Spanish, but their kids are.
Gray tiene 60 bloques.
Como 10 minutos de eso.
Meet the No Sabo parents raising CICE kids.
I grew up in a Spanish-speaking home. I definitely lost it later on.
No Sabo kid is a term used to describe Latinos who don't speak Spanish.
It's a play on the Spanish phrase no sé, which means I don't know. However, when the verb saber, to know, is conjugated incorrectly, it can yield the phrase no sabo instead of no sé. It's sometimes used as a lighthearted meme.
We're no sabo kids. When we're embarrassed, we say we're embarazado.
Can I get 2 tacos de this?
De piojos.
And other times it's used in a derogatory manner to criticize Hispanic people for losing their Spanish speaking skills or for never having them in the first place.
And to make them feel bad for that, to shame them.
I'm just gonna say right off the bat, I can't speak Spanish. I was not taught Spanish by my parents.
Yo hablo español, pero no sé las reglas.
Marco went on Univision in Spanish and said he would not rescind President Obama's illegal executive amnesty on his first day in office.
Well, first of all, I don't know how he knows what I said on Univision because he doesn't speak Spanish. And second of all, the other...
This story is about the hyphen between the Spanish language and Latino identity. According to the Pew Research Center, 54% of US Hispanics who don't speak Spanish say other Latinos have made them feel bad about it.
I think that was a lot of the reason why I didn't speak Spanish in front of people that I knew, especially family members, because if I made a mistake, which I often did, I would be corrected. And so it didn't feel good to, like, nobody corrected my English, you know, and so it didn't feel good to always be corrected.
You know, it's a running joke in my family of like, she doesn't really know Spanish, or, you know, that just, if you're Latino, you probably have experienced it in your own home.
Andrea Bayón grew up in Arizona with a Mexican mom. Piper DeYoung grew up in Southern California with a Mexican-American mother. They don't know each other, but they have almost parallel stories. When they had their first child, they had a realization.
My daughter, after having her, I was kind of sad. I realized, like, I'm like, oh shoot, if I don't necessarily speak Spanish all that great, and I don't practice it at home very often, but I wanted her to learn. I kind of just started like, oh, hey, well, what would it look like if she learned her numbers in Spanish? Could she do that? And I actually have a video of her when she was little, and I kept like teaching her. We do count like 1, 2, 3 up to 10. And in this video, she's like, I'm saying like uno, and she's going dos, and I'd say tres, and she'd go cuatro, and she kept doing it. And I was like, oh, she's kind of learning it, you know? Cinco. Seis. Siete. Ocho. 9. I think that was like a light bulb where I'm like, maybe she could grasp this. It's not too late, you know?
But I had a big question. How do you teach your child Spanish if you yourself are not fluent in Spanish? And on top of that, your husband also does not speak Spanish.
There were friends that we had at church, and I saw that their kids were all in a Spanish immersion program, and they were all gringos, you know?
So Piper is talking about dual language immersion programs where students are taught in both English and another language like Spanish.
It's such a sought-after program that Andrea and her husband had to line up in the middle of the night to get access to it.
When my oldest son was about to go into kindergarten, my partner and I, we stayed up, or we woke up really early, at like 2 in the morning, and we were out there at 3 before it was a lottery system, and we waited to get into this dual immersion school.
Before I explain how dual language immersion works, I want to take a moment to tell you something. My name is Fernando Hurtado, and I'm a journalist with more than 8 years of experience, most recently at NBC and Telemundo. I left that job at the beginning of the year to launch In The Hyphen, this YouTube channel you're seeing right now, to tell deeply researched, visually rich stories about US Latinos. And I need your help. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss a single video. It really does help support my work. All right, now back to the video.
This is a second grade class where the children are learning crucial subjects like language and math completely in Spanish. Later in the day, they'll switch and learn only in English.
Here's how dual language immersion programs work. Both Andrea and Piper's kids follow what's called a 90-10 model. In kindergarten, 90% of the instruction is in Spanish, while 10% is in English. Same thing in first grade. In second grade, 80% of instruction is in Spanish, 20% in English. The numbers keep changing by 10% in either direction until you're at a 50-50 split by 5th grade.
And it's done in an interesting way. Roughly half of the students are English speakers at home, like Andrea's and Piper's kids. The other half are English language learners, so students whose first language is not English. And it's done on purpose to help the English language learners learn English faster and the Spanish language learners learn Spanish.
It took some adjusting for Andrea's firstborn, Denzel, at first. Denzel did not want to be on camera, so you're actually seeing footage of Emerson, Andrea's youngest son.
He learned Spanish right away, and it was so powerful. And I was, I mean, I was always sold on it, but I was 100% sold when he sat on my grandpa's lap, and he was just speaking to him in Spanish. And my grandpa was such a quiet man, and he just had the biggest smile on his face, and it was so beautiful just to see that reconnection with them.
I was curious about how helping with homework works for these mothers, especially when 90% of the homework is in Spanish.
There's words, sometimes I'll see words and I'm like, oh wait, how would I pronounce that? Because I'm breaking it up, trying to break it up, if that makes sense, sound it out. And then I'll ask her and she just gets it. She says it and I was like, for example, a U or an I next to each other, I might be like, wait, how does that translate again? And she'll just say it and let me know.
¿Cuántos cubos tiene Jenna ahora?
26. Okay, 26 plus
37
es igual a...
A lot of studies have looked at the benefits of dual language immersion.
A seminal 1962 study looked at bilingualism among French-English students in Canada. The study found that bilingual students fared better cognitively than monolingual students. Another study looked at brains in kids who were bilingual versus those who were not. Kids who spoke English and Spanish were found to have more gray matter, or healthier brains.
Still, dual language immersion has had a troubled history in California, where Andrea and Piper live.
From 1998 to 2016, Proposition 227 banned bilingual education in classrooms that taught English language learners. That despite the fact that California has the biggest population of English language learners in the country by a long shot.
Proponents of Prop 227 argued that cultivating non-English languages would separate English language learners from English dominant speakers. Now, under this proposition, dual language immersion programs could still exist, but only if enough parents signed waivers giving consent for their children to be enrolled in one of these. In 2016, though, the tide started turning.
Proposition 58 on the ballot next month would repeal the English-only immersion requirement in California and restore bilingual education to our schools.
Proposition 58 passed with 73% of voter support. Now, for Andrea and Piper, there's a benefit of dual language immersion that is harder to quantify, and that's cultural identity. For example, here's something Andrea never thought she would see. Her youngest son, Emerson, teaching me how to make tortillas in Spanish. ¿Cuánto tiempo tarda para hacer tortillas?
¿Como cuántos tortillas?
Una docena.
Como... No sé, como 10 minutos, pienso.
Now this is where it gets interesting. For Andrea and Piper, simply having their kids in dual language immersion wasn't enough.
I think I realized probably kind of the beginning of second grade, it kind of hit me well, if I want her to continue speaking Spanish, I also have to model that as well at home. It can't be up to the teachers to just teach her how to speak, you know, and clearly it is so easy to learn or to forget Spanish, right? I easily forgot it, so I don't want her to go through 6 years of learning and then she just forget it. So I wanted to kind of challenge myself and put myself in a program where I can learn and have a safe space to make mistakes, speak Spanglish, and feel fine with it.
That program was Spanish Sin Pena.
Congratulations for making this investment in yourself. ¿Cómo te sientes?
Spanish Sin Pena, which translates to Spanish without shame in English, offers virtual classes and workshops for Latinos with limited Spanish proficiency to learn alongside other no Sabo adults, so to speak.
I remember chatting with Wendy, the co-founder, and she said, why do you want to be here? What is your goal? And I said, I just want to be with, I want to be able to speak to my grandparents.
I definitely had lots of pena going into Spanish Sin Pena. The confidence just wasn't there. And it's funny because like, you know, that like pena or shame, like, I don't know, sometimes when I think of shame, it might be like, oh, are you ashamed of your culture or something like that? And it's actually like complete opposite. It's like, it's kind of shame because I don't feel good enough. Like I don't feel like I check the box. And I think that's why when I stumbled upon your channel and stuff, I was like, yes, there are some of us who don't feel fully this or fully that. And with that, sometimes that pena comes up. I think after the first class, like I was just like, you know what, I don't care. I was like, can we cuss? I'm like, I don't care if I'm not that or this. I am me and who I am. My experience is unique to myself and my life. And all I can do is just try and whatever it is that I want to put my heart to, I'm gonna do it.
One day, Piper decided to share this video showing her in a Spanish Sin Pena class on social media.
Me siento muy emocionada. ¿Y nerviosa o no? Nerviosa, sí, mucho. ¿Cómo fue la última vez que hablaste en español? Hablo todos los días con mi hija.
I remember seeing the comments and every comment was so nice. I could literally cry just thinking about it. Cause like every comment was so nice. There were so many people that were like, I feel this way. Oh my gosh, I want to join, or like, I didn't even know like there was a program like this. Like there was literally not a mean comment on there. You know, I thought you'd get the people that are like, you should know Spanish because, you know, like there are people that very much think that, and it's like, that would be great, but it really comes down to what you learn in your home. Like, I'm like, you want to go shame my parents? Well, how do you know what they went through, or were they told to assimilate? Like there's so many generational things that tie to why someone learns a language or doesn't learn a language. So the comments were really nice, and it was cool to see like, wow, okay, like there are a lot of people that feel the same way.
Spanish Sin Pena also hosts what are called cultural immersion trips. One of them was to Mexico City.
It was such a beautiful and special experience to really kind of put my feet into the soil that felt like home, and it felt like home.
And what did it feel like to see your son yapping away in Spanish?
Yeah, I mean, I cried a lot. It was really, like there really aren't words for it, because that was always my intention. Like starting out from when he was going into kindergarten, and now seeing that on that trip in particular, he was learning a lot about the axolotes. He was just communicating with this elder who was talking about how they're endangered, and all of it was in Spanish, and it was just, I felt like time stood still, and it was just very quiet and peaceful, and it just felt like everything is fine. It was a really important moment to notice that it's kind of come around full circle with him being able to communicate with my abuelito, and then to be able to be in la tierra, like in el país.
I asked Piper and Andrea if they had any advice for no Sabo parents who also wanted to raise Si Se kids.
I would just say surround yourself with community that supports you, and anybody who's hating or who's like correcting everything, just gently remove yourself and find people who are encouraging you, because I have friends now and they know where I'm at with my Spanish, and they're completely bilingual or fluent, and there's no like tension there.
Know that if that desire's there, like, it's coming from somewhere, you know, and don't be scared. Because I know, like, I was a little scared, because for me, for a second, it was kind of like, if I put her in this class, is it gonna shine light on everything that I don't know?
I just feel more whole. I feel like more of a whole person instead of somebody who just goes about doing their job or like just being a parent. I feel like I'm able to really bring in and integrate culture.
It's gonna be a really beautiful journey for you and like your child. I think as people share more about this style of learning, I think you get more people that are interested and want to do it, and then in certain areas it might create a demand, which is I think is pretty awesome, like that people would want to do that.
Are you a no Sabo parent? What role is Spanish playing or not playing in your child's life?